Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. And welcome to another edition of Happy Hour. As always, if you are choosing to enjoy a beverage or whatever you're choosing to do, please do so responsibly. Samantha, are you sipping on anything?
Water. Ice cold water from
Nice.
our filter that was given to us by a long time ago sponsor.
Yeah.
We missed them.
I do miss them. I won't say who they are because they're not a current sponsor, but I actually have red wine. It's been a minute since I've done this.
And since I got to sing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's classic. You've got
Thank
to.
you. Thank you for letting me.
It's kind of appropriate because this is not an unhappy hour, I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say it. We always go off the rails.
A little bit.
Yeah, but I don't think it is. But this one is, I just want to talk about changes because I feel like there's a lot of changes.
Changes.
That's what I called the title of the outline. See?
Nice.
We're on the same
In
page.
sync.
But before we get into that, we did want to mention, if you've been listening to our Sex and the City Watch podcast, we are looking to bring on a listener to come join us, to watch an episode, to have a conversation. It's really fun. It's not difficult. You don't have to prepare anything. Really, all you need is an internet connection, preferably headphones, and our super producer, Christina, will walk you through it. We're looking to do that kind of soon. So if you want to enter, please do. Thanks to everyone who already has. We have collected your names.
Yes.
But yeah, if you would like to hang out, you've never seen the show, I haven't either. So
You're in
you'll be
good
with
company.
me. If you've only seen it a couple times, you're fine. If you've seen it a million times, Samantha and you.
In good company.
Exactly.
Oh, in company anyway.
Yes, in company. Yes. But yeah, I did want to talk about some changes because I feel right now a lot of people in my life are going through like significant changes, and not bad at all. But I had a friend visit me recently who I hadn't seen in quite a while. And he was like, "So what's up?" And I was like, same old, like stressed with work and like it's the same story like I always give. And it just gave me kind of a moment of, I feel like I'm staying in a stagnant position where I have like so many friends who are getting like new jobs, they're getting houses, they're moving, like they're doing all of these things. And I don't think, like, I'm not sitting here miserable that I'm like where I am, but I was wondering if you've ever experienced this, Samantha. Sometimes when like everyone else around you is making a change, I feel like I need to make a change.
Right. No, I feel that. I've definitely felt that a lot because I feel like some things feel like I'm being left behind.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, some things I feel like because it's other people are in chaotic stages that I'm preparing for it. So that feels just as ominous. Because I'm like, if they're getting it, I'm going to get it soon, like whatever it is. But like, yeah, I think either way that like anticipation or that feeling left behind or like left out, both of those things can be off like really, really unnerving. But also you may be feeling their vibe, which makes you feel like you may be getting those changes too, or you should be experiencing this similar to this.
Yeah. And it kind of harkens back to our very first episode we did together officially as co-host was official was Are We Failures? And you just have these like, by this point I should have done this, by this point I should have done this. And generally I feel I've shaken off a lot of that. Sometimes it comes back like a specter, but generally I feel like, no, that's not for me. I don't need to do that. But I don't know. There was something about like having someone I haven't seen in a while and just being like, yeah, same place, same job,
Yeah.
same, like
Just
just
the
the same.
Which is talks about your reliability being at the same job, because that's rare. A. B, I think that's the part of me is like, I just feel boring. And so, because I went to a party or get together with people that I haven't seen in a while, like it's been a long time, and I just don't hang out with people ever.
Right.
And then, so they were like, what have you been up to, after they're telling me their dramatic filled whatever. And I'm like, nothing. You know, that's kind of the end. And then they're like waiting. And because I don't have the extroverted, like effort to want to give you more details and make up something or make it sound, I'm like, yeah. Like it just ends on that dead end note where it just becomes awkward, and they're like, are you okay? Are you depressed because of whatever you're doing? It's really monotone. But yeah, like I'm like, really, and then I have to end up with a joke with like, no, seriously, I have no life. Like that's kind of like the way it goes for me. But I'm also not a great storyteller, and I'm also sometimes so quiet spoken. I don't think I'm not quiet spoken, but I guess I am, that I get interrupted a lot, where people are like, oh my God, yeah, let me tell you. And then their story's better. So I just quit talking, to the point that I made a comment to someone. I was like, okay, I guess I'm done. So those moments in social settings make me feel like, yeah, there's nothing, like my story's not going to top that. So I'm just going to sit here and stare at you, because I don't want to talk to you about my like invasion of ants that just happened, that I just sit there with my Windex and spray on. Like I don't, that's my story.
I would watch that Olympic event, Samantha. Yeah, I mean, that's actually, that's a really great point in terms of what I'm going through, because I'm actually usually, and I apologize because I know I've done it, I'm that person. I'm that person that comes in and is like, you wouldn't believe what just happened to me.
Yeah, you got a good story usually.
I usually have a good story. So I feel like maybe I'm just not used to being the one that's like, no, I'm good. Nothing.
This is what happens when you don't leave the house anymore, Annie. You do what I do, which is like, I watched a new K-drama, or I watched the same K-drama that I liked from like the 5th time. So that's cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's like, well, I write fan fiction now. And they're like, oh.
I have more anxiety. You want me to tell you about that?
I'm really anxious. I've gained a lot of weight.
Right. My mind goes back and forth of like, I'm starting to look old. What can I do to, no, I have to be body positive. Oh my God. Is that the story that you want?
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, part of it was, I was like, maybe I'm just getting older. I don't know. I think I had, and I've talked about this at length, several podcasts. I am a big people pleaser. I try not to do it, but I'm a big people pleaser. But I also was somebody that like show up at the party and I'm like, oh, I got this story. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And this was a real, oh no, I'm tired. Tell me about you. You do it.
You tell me what you're going through. That's the thing, is like, I think because you included have great storytelling, like incident happening friends, that I don't have to. I can be the listener, and I'm the one that's got the questions. Like I will ask you the questions and keep that story going. But for me on my own, is really doesn't go well, even to the fact when I was having a melodramatic incident, and I say melodramatic where I had a lot of deaths and sicknesses in the family, I saw that same group of friends, and like I finally told them what was happening about back to back to back to incidents. And then as I was sitting with them, I got a text about another family member dying and passing on. And I had to joke. I was like, well, that was another whatever. And they totally ignored me because they were uncomfortable by the fact that I added on to that story. And then I said, did y'all hear me? And they were like, oh, we heard you. And then moved on.
We did.
So like even when I do have something, I get that response, and maybe it's just I'm really bad about the delivery, which could be the case, like which is not boding well as a podcaster, I guess, since we are actually kind of in that field. Y'all tell me. But like that kind of happened in that realm, and that I was like, but the way they responded, it wasn't mean. Like, it was like it matched my energy, and we kind of laughed. But it just still was like,
Right.
yeah, that's about right.
Right.
So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if that's just like the roles that we change into or become or whatever, whatnot. Because like what as you do less, literally less going out. I'm not dating anyone new. We're not moving into a different stage in our relationship, which I've been kind of like low-key offended that nobody's asking. You know how
Oh,
like people
yeah.
like, you know, bother you about those next stage? Like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
you've been
yeah.
together for this long. Nobody.
I'll ask
And I'm
you,
like,
even though I feel
I'm
I know
like,
the
even though I
answer.
don't want to, and my answer would I'm like, I've had my answer ready. I'm like, oh no, I don't ever like, I'm not interested.
Mm,
Maybe I've said it for so long that people already know and don't even
yeah.
bother to ask. Even though, because I was saying it before I was even in a relationship, and like it's like stayed true throughout. But I'm like, now I'm starting to get low key offended that nobody's asking.
I get you. Like, there's like an annoyance that people constantly ask, but if there's someone that knows you, there's an annoyance that they're like, well,
Do you
why
not think
aren't you asking?
yeah, do you think I'm not good enough for a wedding? Do you think I don't need to be a bride? Like, not really, y'all. I'm
Right.
just kidding. But like, there's moments because I'm like, that would be that's that level of like stagnicity. Is that a word?
Yeah.
I made it a word.
Yeah, sure.
In which I've done that for me. I've done the house buying thing, so everything's somewhat normal now. Although I'm very scared because I'm like, as the job market keeps getting worse and worse, and as like the economy is getting worse and worse, I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen to us? That's kind of a little bit scary. The panic of the election, and I'm like, what if our rights are terminated? What the hell's going to happen? All of those things. What if they do take it back to the 1950s and they're like, you're a woman, you can't have property. You're not born in the U.S., you can't own property. Like any of those things, which I say that as partially sarcastic, but like with things like that, but the level of like, okay, I'm not necessarily, I don't have kids. That's not a priority in my life. I'm not getting married, so that's not a priority. I don't go out to parties unless I absolutely have to. And there's no way in hell I do more than one event every 2 weeks. Like
Mhm.
I've definitely gotten that to the side. Like, and my social outing is doing my cardio jam class with my workout friends. And that's it. Like that is my and going to the grocery store, which I travel and do a whole adventure too. Like I go to 2 or 3 because I need to get things at specific places. I figured out that's an odd thing. Anyway, all of that to
Mhm.
say is like that's kind of the life I lead. So when you ask people who haven't seen you in a while, and you just sit there with the, I've been at home with my dog and my partner.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and it was also like, I'm going to talk about this at the end, but this was an interesting situation because it was someone who knew me at a certain time in my life, and I think had this certain idea of me. And I played into that idea for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was someone who was a big storyteller, like he was a big personality, and I do that too. But I think the difference is like going back to your story where you're like, here's this sad thing. I'm like, here's the happiest thing. Like I'm trying to like,
Right.
because of that people pleasing, I'm giving you the like most ridiculous story. Now, have I gotten called out and been like, you could have died there in that
Yes.
story? Yes.
That's usually my comment. What the hell, Anney? That's not normal.
They're like, this wasn't a fun story at all. But it's like more of a like, I'm doing this thing to, I do like telling stories. I don't want to say that that's not true, but I'm doing it to make people happy.
Right. Entertain people.
Yes. And so if the sad thing comes out, that's usually I just am crying in the middle of the night and someone finds me. Like if that usually doesn't come out.
Yeah.
But that was like my whole thing was for a while. It was, oh, she's going to have a really wild story go talk to her. And so it's interesting because again, I am good. I'm happy. I'm not interested in impressing dudes anymore generally. Sometimes it will rear its head, but generally good. So I don't know. It was just like it was a strange feeling to be like, oh, yeah, no story. I'm good. I don't know.
Right. And then I wonder, again, like the level of change that we have through COVID
Yeah.
until today, and like the narrative and the environment has changed. Like
Yes.
our outlook on what is happening. I'm going to stop being too sad in a minute, I promise y'all. But like the reality is, it has become really, really unpredictable. So when things are unpredictable and we are living in constant stress mode, and we've talked about this in several different ways where we talked about different diagnosis or different things that are like rearing its ugly head and it's coming out with like, yeah, I might suffer from that. But like the fact is, like with that, I think that changes our perspective on what we want to interact with and how we want to relate that. And for me, I thought about this too recently. It was like, I don't care about entertaining people anymore. I don't care about having friends that I don't really like. Like I am very, very tired of doing superficial. And I've always been that way anyway, but typically that didn't stop me from trying to make something big, like more meaningful. So I will like invest in you. I will try to figure out what you're up to. And I still do that partially, but more for people that I know will reciprocate that to me. And like, I will check up on you. I like, as an adult in my 40s now, I don't talk to people every day. That's not a narrative, but that's not a structure I've ever had. Like I don't typically contact you, text you, call you every day. I don't do that. That's not a thing. It may be 2 weeks before you hear from me, unless there's a reason. Like for you and I, we connect and talk every day during the week, essentially. But the weekends, like unless we're together or planning something together, I'm like, she doesn't need any questions about work because it inevitably leads to work. Be like, hey, this should be a podcast idea or whatever, whatnot. So like leaving that alone, even though I still send you texts, be like, hey, look at this. What do you think about this? Or if it's, Last of Us or Star Wars related. We definitely have those conversations. But like, I don't typically do that. Even for my closest friends, people that I call my best friends, I don't talk to my family but once every 2 or 3 weeks. Like that is kind of the way I communicate, which may not be great. But if I haven't heard from you within with a month or so, I'll give you how are you? Just checking in. If I know you're in a stressful position, then I will check in on you almost every week for sure. But I don't always get that from people. Like I'm usually the one that starts that communication, even with my closest friends. There's only a couple of friends who do that to me. And I'm like, oh. But then I don't tell them if something is wrong. Weirdly. And I definitely will not reach out during my crisis moment unless it's because I have to, like work related. Weirdly. Even though I would be mad at other people. And you've talked about this too.
Yeah.
When they don't do that to me. Like if you don't tell me you're going through something, I'm going to be upset with you.
Right.
But I don't do that either because in my head, you're not going to care as much and it's not your responsibility. Like it's such a weird like dichotomy for me. But again, with all of that, that also means I'm putting in less effort to entertain random people or even my friends.
Yeah. I used to have what I probably terribly called the list of neglect, and it just had my friends on there, and I would go through and I would be like, when was the last time you checked in on them? And it was a long list.
You called it the list of neglect?
I called it the list of neglect.
Being on that list would make me sad. Just being on it. I'm like, what does that mean?
It was more of a way of tracking, like you haven't talked to this person in forever.
Right.
You need to check in on them.
Which I understand. It still hurts my feelings a little bit to be on that list. Don't put me on that list.
Well, it doesn't exist anymore because at a certain point I was like, I don't know that these people really cared that I checked in on them. Like I was doing all the work, as you're saying, and maybe they never had noticed that I hadn't checked in on them. It wasn't that they were mad that I hadn't. And I was doing it more to make myself feel better and make myself to validate myself, because see people like me.
Right.
Because I do this. So the list of neglect is no more. I will also...
You have such dramatic titles.
You know I do. You know I do. Oh, man. I will also say, like, another part of this, and I feel a lot of people listening are going to relate, is I feel like I'm constantly waiting. When I started this job, I felt like I was waiting to be fired. I still kind of feel that way, to be honest. I feel like I'm waiting for the election. I'm waiting to hear about this house market. I'm waiting. And so, like, the fact that my friends are like buying houses or getting new jobs, it just makes me question this waiting. And it could be, I could just say, like, you know what? I'm not waiting for anything. I'm good here. Or I'm good here for now. But I feel like I'm in a constant state of like waiting on something to give me a sign or to like clarify things, or I don't know. And the fact that I live in Atlanta, I didn't want to live in Atlanta. The whole reason I do is because I was waiting for a different job. And eventually I just ended up here and I'm happy here. But it's just like, I've been thinking about that. I've also been thinking about, I have a lot of instances in my life where I did something because a friend did it. And it's not that it was bad, but I don't know that that's the best way to make big decisions. So I'm just grappling with that. And I did have, I'm not going to go into it now. I probably will do it in another happy hour soon. It's not bad. It was really nice. I had a like really tough introspective moment recently. And it wasn't easy. I'm glad I did it. I questioned a lot of things about myself and a lot of choices I've made. And I'm really glad I did it. And I did it in part because of this show. And I came out the other side of this, which, by the way, I did not mean to do. I should have. It's better if it's more mindful, I think. It just sort of happened. But I came out the other side more or less like, no, I agree with the choices I made here and here and here. But it felt better to have questioned them and really interrogated them. So I don't know. I'm glad I did it. There's still, I love writing my essays, so I've been writing a lot of essays lately. But I'm trying to work through some stuff, but it's just sometimes you got to check in and see, what am I doing? Is the stagnation? Is it stagnation or am I good? What is this? And also, a part of that was accepting that not everything is for me. Not everything is for me, and that's okay. Even if I want it to be for me, it's okay. It's not.
Yes.
No. So yeah, that's where I am right now. And if my friend is listening who inspired this whole thing, it was good to see you. It was good to see you. Truly. And all my friends who are moving, who have made changes, I'm so happy for you, and I'm wishing for the best. And I'm glad to be your Atlanta friend, because as of now, I'm the Atlanta friend. But yes, listeners, if you feel anything about this, if this resonated with you, we would love to hear from you. Please write in. You can email us at stephanieandmomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I Never Told You. We're on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.